Now we shall take the chapter in detail. The making of a scientist. This is the success story of Richard H. Ebright, who at the age of 22 propounded a new theory on how cells work, along with one of his college roommates. He explained this theory in an article in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. For the first time ever, this scientific journal had ever published the work of college students. If we have to explain this big scientific achievement in terms of sports, we would say making the big leagues at the age of 15 and hitting a home run your first time at bat. A home run means hitting a grand shot in the game of baseball in the very first match. So it was indeed a big achievement for a student at the age of 22. This article in the journal was the first big achievement in a long chain of list of achievements. All this started with butterflies. As Richard was the only child of his parents, he would not play team games, so he could do only one thing: collect things. He collected butterflies, fossils, rocks, and coins. He also became astronomer, gazing at stars all night. His mother played a vital role in his becoming a scientist. The most important thing was Richard had a driving curiosity along with a bright mind. That means he only had a recipient mind but also willingness to learn. That means he not only had a recipient mind but also willingness to learn new things. He always looked up to novel ideas, new things to add to his knowledge. His mother discovered that urge of knowledge. She took him to trips, bought him telescope, microscope, cameras, mounting materials, and other equipment, and helped him in many other ways. His mother was his only friend till he started to go to school. When he went to school, she would bring her friends home. But at night, Richard and his mother did experiments and activities together. Richard lost his father when he was in third grade. After that, he became whole world for him. His mother always kept him busy, and Richard also liked the work because he wanted to learn. Richard was a bright child. He always earned top grades and did many activities. By the time he was in his second grade, he had collected all 25 species of butterfly found around his hometown, and he thought that it's the end of his butterfly collection. But then his mother got him a children's book called The Travels of Monarch X. This book told how monarch butterflies migrate to Central America. This book opened a world of science to this young learner. At the end of the book, readers were invited to help study butterfly migration. That means young children who read that book also became part of study. They were supposed to tag butterflies for further research by Frederick A. Urquhart. This is very important name in the life of Richard, Dr. Urquhart. He was the lecturer in the University of Toronto, Canada. Richard also participated and soon was attaching sticker tags to the wings of monarchs. Anyone who found such tagged butterflies, means butterflies with some sticker sort of thing on their wings, was asked to send the tag to Dr. Urhart. The season of collecting butterflies in Reading lasts for 6 weeks in late summer. This was very short span of time to catch many butterflies. So what Richard did, he caught female monarch, take the eggs and raise them in his basements through their life cycle. You must have studied in your science books the life cycle of a butterfly. So, when egg became an adult butterfly, Richard would tag the butterflies and let them go. He did this for several years, and his basement was home to thousands of monarchs in different stages of development. With time, Richard was losing all his interest in butterflies because it was a tiring task. Without much feedback, of all the butterflies he had tagged in so many years, only 2 were recaptured, and they also were within 75 miles of his house. So, the migration of butterflies could not be studied, and all his hard work was wasted. Then, when he was in 7th grade, there came a turning point in his life. He entered a county science fair and lost. He did not get any prize. He felt very sad. As everybody was winning, he did not get anything. There he showed frog tissues under microscope, whereas others had tried to do real experiments. Then he understood that for next year he also will do real experiments. The subject he chose was insects. Insects here are butterflies, because he had been working on them for past several years. So he wrote to Dr. Urhart for suggestions. Dr. Urhart also wrote him back giving a number of suggestions for experiments. For a whole year, Richard was busy doing various experiments, and his hard work paid him back. He won prize not only in the county science fair but also at the international science fair. His 8th grade project was to find the cause of a viral disease that kills nearly all monarch caterpillars every few years. He thought that beetle was the carrier of these diseases. He kept the beetle and butterflies together, although he did not get any real results. But he showed in the science fair that he had tried. This time he won. His next project was even more interesting. He was testing the theory that viceroy butterflies copy monarch butterflies. The reason being, monarchs don't taste good to birds, but viceroys do taste good to birds. So if viceroy butterflies look more like monarchs, they would less likely be eaten by birds. That means viceroy butterflies looked like monarch butterflies as a camouflage so that they can escape the birds' dinner. Ebright's project was to see whether in fact birds would eat monarchs. He found that birds did not like monarchs. Only starling bird was the one that liked monarchs. This project was placed first in zoology division and third overall in the county science fair. In his second year in high school, Richard began the research that led to his discovery of an unknown insect hormone. Indirectly, also led to his new theory on the life of cells. His project was simple. What is the purpose of 12 gold spots on a monarch pupa? Everyone believed the spots were just ornamental, but Dr. Urhart didn't. To find answer to this question, Ebb Wright and another excellent science student had to build a device that showed that spots were producing hormone necessary for butterflies' wings development. This project won first prize in county fair and entry into International Science and Engineering Fair. At International Fair, it won third place for zoology. He also got a chance to work during the summer at the entomology laboratory of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. Monarch pupa, which got him first place at the International Science Fair and gave him another chance to work in the Army laboratory during the summer. As high school senior, he moved further. He grew cells from a monarch's wing in a culture and showed that the cells would divide and develop into normal butterfly wing scales only if they were fed the hormone from the gold spots. This means that he had proved that 12 tiny gold spots were not just ornamental, they were not just decoration on the wings of the butterfly, rather, they secrete hormones for development of butterfly wings. This project won him first prize at International Science Fair and chance to do further experiments in the Army Laboratory and Laboratory of the US Department of Agriculture. Next year, he went to Harvard University. You must have heard the name of Harvard University. It's a very famous university of US. During summer, he went to the laboratory of Department of Agriculture and did more work on the hormones from the gold spot. There were high-tech and precise instruments in the laboratory. By using them, he could identify the hormone's chemical structure as well. After 1.5 years, he got the idea for his new theory about cell life. While looking at X-ray photos of chemical structures of a hormone, he not only found answers to insect hormone but also found an answer to an intriguing question in biology. That is, how can cell read the blueprint of its DNA? As you know that DNA is the substance of the nucleus of a cell that controls heredity. DNA determines the form and functions of the cell. Thus, DNA is called blueprint for life. When Richard found the answer, he and his college roommate worked all night drawing pictures and constructing plastic models of molecules, how it could happen, so that they can explain what they have learned. Then they wrote the article which is mentioned in the beginning of the chapter. After so many experiments and such a long struggle, they finally could have answers to the questions that were very intriguing so far. Not just this, Richard stood second in the class of 1,510 students at Harvard. He became graduate student researcher at Harvard Medical School. Richard started his research on purpose of gold spots on a monarch pupa in his high school. This research led him to understand the processes of life and might also lead to new ideas for preventing some types of cancers and other diseases. Today, medical science, although has found remedies for cancer and many other deadly diseases, but contribution of Richard Ebb Wright and his college roommate cannot be ignored. Richard Ebb Wright was a great scientist, no doubt, but it's not that he did only experiments in science. He had many other interests in various activities, like He was a champion debater, a scout, a public speaker, a good canoeist, mountain climber, all around outdoor person. He is also an expert photographer. Richard was greatly impressed with his social studies teacher, Mr. Richard A. Wheeler, and his teacher also admired him very much. Remember, the name of the teacher is also Richard, so don't be confused. It's Richard A. Wheeler. His teacher opened his mind to new ideas. His teacher was immensely impressed with him as he would put in 3 to 4 hours at night doing debate research with the research on the butterflies and his other interests. This means he won't compromise with one thing while doing another. He would take out time for each and everything. He had wonderful time management. Mr. Wheeler said Richard was competitive, but not in a bad sense. He wasn't interested in winning for winning's sake or winning to get a prize. Rather, he was winning because he wanted to do the best job he could. For the right reasons, he wants to do the best. Such students are seen rarely in this world, where a child is interested in science as well as social studies. He devotes longish hours in doing his science practical works, laboratory works, research. At the same time, he is equally enthusiastic to do the debates, canoeing, photography, stargazing, mountain climbing. This is a multifaceted boy. So we must look up to the children like this, and we should also try to become one like them. So to sum up, we can say the ingredients in making of a scientist are: number 1, first-rate mind; number 2, curiosity to learn; number 3, will to win for right reasons. That's all with this chapter, students. Hope you have learned and enjoyed the lesson. Thank you so much.